Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunities Action Plan Update Overview. My name is Michaela Catani, and I am the Community Disaster Recovery Program Coordinator here at DEO. With me today is Emily Oglesby, the Disaster Recovery External Affairs Director. Hey! Today's webinar will provide a summary of the state's Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program, known as CDBG-DR. The webinar will provide a timeline of events, a summary of the action plan as it is currently written, highlights of the federal guidance with it, and along with new requirements, and then DEO's next steps in our process. Please note, we will not be taking any questions during this webinar. If you have a question, please feel free to type it in your gray question box on your screen. We will do our best to respond after the webinar is completed. To begin, I wanted to give a brief overview of how disaster recovery sequence takes place. When a disaster occurs, the state must first declare a disaster and submit it to the president for concurrence. Once the president concurs and declares a disaster, that allows for the usage of certain federal funding, such as FEMA and SBA. Those funding streams are available immediately after the event and for response and recovery activities. Then, as that immediate response is taking place, Congress may be considering additional supplemental funding to vote on, which will then be signed into law by the president. Once funds are appropriated by Congress, HUD will publish guidance in what is called the Federal Register. After the Federal Register is issued, the process for accessing CDBG-DR funds can formally begin.
Hey guys, it's Emily. I'm going to give you a rundown of our action plan timeline of events. And so here we are. Here's where we are so far. After Hurricane Irma made landfall in September 2017, Congress appropriated $7.4 billion for disaster recovery through the CDBG-DR program nationwide. In November 2017, HUD announced Florida will receive approximately $616 million of this appropriation. In February, HUD released guidance that must be followed to receive the funding. Additionally, Congress also appropriated another $28 billion for disaster recovery through the CDBG program nationwide. Florida will receive $791 million from this additional appropriation. From the $791 million, $157 million will address remaining unmet needs, and the remaining $634 million will be used to address mitigation. DEO submitted its action plan to HUD in May 2018, and the plan was officially approved this June. So since June, DEO has been working to implement all programs within the action plan.
As DEO is beginning to implement our programs from this initial $616 million, HUD released the second Federal Register for the additional $157 million in funding. DEO now has 90 days to complete a substantial amendment to our current State of Florida Action Plan. To do this, DEO will update its unmet needs assessment and work with other states along with local governments, public housing authorities, and nonprofits to evaluate how our programs could be created or expanded.
So here you see a slide of the current summary, impact, and unmet needs. So DEO completed an unmet needs assessment in March of 2018. To complete our assessment, we pulled data from several different sources and community feedback. And so what we did to determine unmet need, Florida's methodology included the following formula. So DEO took the estimated storm impacts and we subtracted funds that were made available through FEMA, the U.S. Small Business Association, and the National Flood Insurance Program. So that equaled Florida's unmet need. Additionally, we examined the storm's impact on the most vulnerable populations in the state. After looking at the data of impacts and unmet needs from Hurricanes Irma and Maria, it was determined that the total estimated impact from these storms is about $17.4 billion across the three sectors of housing, infrastructure, and the economy. The total estimated unmet need is greater than $10.9 billion. The housing sector represents the greatest unmet need at 62.51%, followed with economic revitalization at 33.95% and infrastructure at 3.54%. All of this is the total of unmet need in the state of Florida. The results from our assessment indicate the importance of focusing programs on housing recovery first, then the economy, and then infrastructure recovery.
Our next few slides will focus on the key guidelines of how CDBG-DR funds can be used. These key guidelines for the funding are outlined in the Federal Register and include the following: flexible funding to address the community's needs, the fact that the state will be the primary grantee of this funding and has prepared the action plan for HUD. CDBG-DR funds can be used to address long-term disaster recovery needs after all other resources have been exhausted. This includes activities like housing, infrastructure, and economic development. It is DEO's responsibility to prepare the action plan, which was completed and approved in June. Both non-entitlement and entitlement communities are eligible for this funding. Funds must primarily consider and address housing unmet need, but it is also important to note that funds can include unmet need and economic revitalization and infrastructure needs if they are unrelated to the housing needs, as long as DEO can demonstrate that the needs in the assessments no longer remain unmet housing need or that the remaining unmet need will be addressed by other sources of funding. This is a new statement from the latest Federal Register. It is important to know that activities must be related and tied back to one of HUD's 3 national objectives. These objectives include 1, benefiting persons of low and moderate income, 2, aiding in the prevention or elimination of slum and blight, and 3, meet other urgent needs of the community development, which could be serious or an immediate threat at the time. It is also important to note that out of all funding, 70% of this funding must go towards benefiting persons of low and moderate income.
So here we are with new requirements for the Federal Register that was released on August 2018. So with the latest appropriation of roughly $157 million, HUD released the second Federal Register. Some significant changes included new communities, slight adjustments with affordability periods, public comment has been extended from 14 days to 30 days, and we must update our needs assessment and reach back out with affected citizens. We may also include disaster-related preparedness and mitigation measures. New communities included in this Federal Register are Clay County, Hillsborough County, Palm Beach County, St. Lucie County, Osceola County. Additional zip codes include 32145 and 32084 in St. Johns County, 3277 in Seminole County, 33935 and 33440 in Hendry County, 33523 in Pasco County, 33825 and 33870 in Highlands County.
And all those counties that Emily just listed can be seen on this slide in the funding breakdown. They're highlighted in blue if they are a new county or new zip code. This funding breakdown is from the latest Federal Register, which will be part of our substantial amendment process. As you can see from the breakdown, at least 80% of this funding must go to the HUD-identified most impacted and distressed communities. As mentioned before, it is also important to note that 70% of the total funds must be spent on LMI populations. This breakdown does not include any of the admin and planning costs separated out.
So let's go into our action plan program design. So we're gonna cover all the programs within the action plan. The programs are broken up into our main categories of housing, economic revitalization, and public assistance. In the action plan, DEO references infrastructure with the next appropriation of funding.
So DEO in our action plan has 4 housing programs listed.
The first program is the Housing Repair and Replacement Program. This is a state-run program where applicants will be able to apply for repairs, reconstruction, or replacement of their homes damaged by Hurricane Irma. Eligible activities under this plan will include repairs, reconstruction, and replacement of homes damaged.
The next few programs, we are partnering with Florida Housing Finance Corporation. These programs include workforce affordable rental for new construction programs. These programs will allow for low-income housing tax credits and zero-interest loans. They will primarily focus on new construction of multifamily affordable rental housing. These will have an affordability period of 15 years with 8 units or more and 20 years with 5 units or more. Another of their programs is the Land Acquisition Program. This Land Acquisition Program will assist applicants by funding the purchase of land for the development of affordable housing. These programs will all have a competitive application process. Florida Housing Finance Corporation will be presenting a workshop on September 24th to cover a high-level review of all of these programs and how their applications will work.
With the Voluntary Home Buyout Program, it will have 2 potential funding options for pursuing home buyout. This program will allow for leveraging of CDBG-DR funds as a match for projects that are eligible for HMGP, as well as projects located in LMI areas to support permanent open space supporting green infrastructure or other floodplain management systems.
Moving on in the action plan to our economic revitalization activities, DEO has 2 programs.
DEO's first program is Recovery Workforce Training. The purpose of this program is to meet the growing workforce needs by providing training programs, primarily in the housing construction field. So to name a few of those, training could include roofing, plumbing, OJT, and the CDBG-DR office will be working with our Division of Workforce to help us implement this program.
Our next program is the Business Recovery Grant Program. This program will assist eligible business owners who are seeking reimbursements for the cost of replacing equipment and any inventory that was damaged in the storm by Hurricane Irma.
So continuing on, our last program is for public assistance. When Hurricane Maria hit, many Puerto Ricans were displaced and forced to relocate here in Florida.
This program will help all of these new Floridians by providing assistance for new businesses and entrepreneurs who have migrated. Some activities under this program can include business plan guidance, information about all the regional markets in their area, accounting and legal assistance, and any other assistance that could be educational through seminars.
So here we are with our next step. So throughout this month, DEO will continue to host meetings to hear feedback from your communities. After the conclusion of this webinar, DEO will send out a survey. We encourage you all to fill out this survey based on your community and the unmet need that remains from Hurricane Irma. The feedback that we get from you all is invaluable in helping us to understand what your communities particularly need. In October, DEO will be pushing our draft substantial amendment of the action plan to our webpage for a 30-day public comment period. This amendment will include the new Federal Register requirements and technical amendments. Once the draft is posted to the webpage, DEO will hold an additional webinar. This webinar will cover all the changes made in the action plan and the community feedback we received this September. So in November, DEO will finalize our draft substantial amendment, address public comment, and submit this to HUD. HUD will then have 45 days to approve the amendment. So once again, please fill out your survey, and we appreciate your time in joining us for the webinar this morning. There is a PDF of this webinar attached. If you don't see it, email us and we'll send it to you. We will respond to all questions when the webinar is over. And if you're interested in joining our mailing list, if you have this email forwarded to you, please join our mailing list. You can go to our website at www.floridajobs.org/CDBG-DR. You can look to the right of the screen at the top of the page, and that will show you how to access and enter your email address. So we thank you all again for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful weekend, and please don't hesitate to email or call us with any questions that you may have. Thank you.